The Islamic State's journey as a territory-holding organization is very likely to come to an end in the next 12 months or so. According to ITIS Market Conflict Monitor research, since the beginning of 2017, the Islamic State has lost around 40% of its territories and around 80% of its revenues. And we expect this trend to continue over the coming year. But that doesn't mean that the Islamic State will be going away as an organization. What's going to likely happen is that it will transition into an underground insurgency and continue to stage attacks and seek to undermine local governments. Now, one of the ways in which the Islamic State will try to do this is by exploiting the sectarian tensions in Iraq and Syria. It's going to really harness its propaganda machinery to look at efforts to recapture areas like Fallujah, Ramadi, and Mosul, which are Sunni-dominated cities, and really use the atrocities that have been committed by a lot of the Shia forces involved in those offensives to make sure that the group maintains a level of local support among Sunni majority areas. Now, another very important element of the Islamic State's future is the international element. According to Jane's Terrorism and Insurgency Center data, since November 2015, the Islamic State has conducted 33 attacks across Europe in 11 different countries, killing more than 300 people and wounding around 800 others. And this is the trend that we expect to escalate as foreign fighters start to make their way back from Iraq and Syria into the European continent.
Well, it's thought that around 5,000 European foreign fighters have joined the Islamic State since its inception. But now that the group's governance project is beginning to falter, there's a high risk that at least a portion of these foreign fighters will seek to return back home. Statistical analysis on historical data suggests that if half of these foreign fighters do return, only around 1 in 9 will actually present a significant threat, which leaves us with an estimate number of around 270 individuals returning with the intention to prepare and to execute future attacks. Some of these individuals are likely to be on the radar of security services. However, there are also likely to be cases in which individuals do succeed in returning back undetected, perhaps by taking a convoluted route, changing identity on the way. We have seen recent examples of that. Those who do succeed in returning back without being detected, intent on engaging in domestic terrorism, would likely seek to embed themselves in existing Islamist militant cells. And with their connections, with their expertise, and with their skills, they will also increase the capability substantially of these cells. For instance, militants who have spent a significant amount of time on the battlefield will have high levels of planning and operational expertise. They'll also be capable of transferring knowledge on, for instance, security awareness, or indeed the construction of reliable improvised explosive devices to other members of the cell. Consequently, these cells would likely attempt more sophisticated, high-profile attacks, and they'd be more likely to succeed in doing so. It's no coincidence that the only successful, coordinated, multi-site attacks that we've witnessed in Europe over the past years, namely the Paris attacks in November 2015 and the March 2016 Brussels attacks, were conducted by cells including returning foreign fighters. A raft of new measures have been brought in by Western European governments, predominantly to provide them with the legal arsenal to deal with this influx of returning foreign fighters. But a number of key challenges do still remain. Firstly, in purely practical terms, security services are unlikely to have the resources to subject all these individuals to around-the-clock targeted surveillance, owing also to the concurrent need to monitor, in many countries' cases, thousands of other home radicalized individuals. Then there's the even greater problem of coming up with a comprehensive strategy that fuses hard criminalization with softer rehabilitation and reintegration policies, ideally tailored to individual cases. What's more, of course, security services need to prioritize the foreign fighters that pose the most imminent threat. However, it's essential that any de-radicalization program also includes the wives and children of foreign fighters. Children in particular who would have spent a portion of their childhood or their youth under the Islamic State, the cubs of the caliphate as they're called in the group's propaganda, will come back fundamentally damaged and quite possibly indoctrinated by the group's violent ideology. And they themselves could then develop into influential radicalizers, providing the basis for a new generation of Islamist militants. So it's not only the foreign fighters themselves, but also their families that provide one of the key counterterrorism challenges over the next decade.
The Islamic State's decline is very likely to have a big impact on global Islamist militancy. It's not just the Islamic State that will be degrading, but other groups will be benefiting from that decline. What we're very likely to see is other groups like Al-Qaeda and its many affiliates in North Africa, in the Gulf region, in the Sahel region, really start strengthening their networks and benefit from defectees from the Islamic State, for example. And what we might start to see as well is room opening up for the resolution of ideological differences between the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda affiliated groups. And what this might lead to is then an ability to start using both organizations' networks to stage more coordinated terrorist campaigns in Europe. Now, there's many different scenarios as to how the Islamic State's decline might play into what global Islamist militancy will look like in the future. But what we can say for sure is that the Islamic State and the conflict in Iraq and Syria will have inspired a new generation of Islamist militants across Europe, which will have a direct impact on the terrorism threat in the 5 to 10 year outlook.